All right, to our first conversation now. See capital importation data for the first half of 2024. Saw a big appreciation, about 210% from the amount received in the fourth quarter of 2023. And we see FPI, $2 billion, and we see FDI lower at $119.18 million at this point. Let's talk to Mr. John Uwajumogu. He's a special advisor to the president on trade, industry, and investment. Join us from our Abuja studio. Great to have you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Williams, and good morning to everybody out there.
Fantastic. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we're seeing that data for capital importation. That rose by 210% in the first quarter of 2024, from $1 billion recorded in the fourth quarter in 2023 to $3.37 billion. Big move up there. But we see portfolio investment led with $2 billion, making up about 61% of the total. So we're seeing hot money there taking the huge chunk of investments coming into Nigeria. How's the government seeing this?
Now, well, it's a positive indication. And you mentioned the term hot money, which is reflective of the nature of capital. Capital is fleet-footed and would go into situations where there is potential for profit maximization. And in that vein, the systemic approach that His Excellency, the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, had taken in addressing Nigeria's economic issues, which are multifaceted. And in being that the issues are multifaceted, the administration took a systemic approach to address these issues. And one of them is addressing issues of macro stability in form of monetary policy interventions, in unifying the exchange rates, looking at the phasing out of the energy subsidies, as well as the interest rate interventions as well, which aim to remove distortive impacts on the market. And those interventions signaled positive confidence to the investment community, which then culminated in the increase in hot money, as you said, into the economy, because they see a positive outlook in the Nigerian economy, and hence the year-over-year growth that we've seen from a capital importation standpoint, and also from particularly on the FPIs, as they are quicker to move.
And yeah, we keep talking about keeping the multinationals, in the country at this time. We've seen a couple of them leave, and definitely we need more FDI, at this time. So talk to me about how, the government is seeing, multinationals that have left, so far. Multinationals are still here at this time. What is the plan to actually keep those here and also help the local producers here in Nigeria at this time? Because some say, if the multinationals leave, then that's an opportunity for the local producers. But how are you seeing this, so far?
Okay, so the first approach, as I mentioned, was to address issues of macro stability, because those are issues that are more pressing and needed to be addressed first. And we've seen the positives of those interventions, like as we mentioned earlier, on FPI. Now, the other aspect of the government's approach is then to bring in those physical and targeted interventions that are much more enduring and that could encourage the mobilization of FDI into the country, which takes a little bit more time but tends to stay longer and is not as fleet-footed as portfolio investment. And in doing that, the government is looking at those areas of the economy that has strong transformative impact of which the so-called multiplier effect is huge. Following the indicators that you had mentioned that showed that capital importation had increased year over year, that culminated with a positive projected outlook from Fitch, the rating agency, which increased their rating on Nigeria, and as well as the IMF, which projected a growth of 3.3% over last year of 2.9%. While this trend is good and is indicative of the journey that the country is taking and signaling positive confidence to the investment community, this growth is not enough. It is still not sufficient because it is at the rate of our population growth. So it is not enough to raise the living standards of a youthful and growing population. So we need a dramatic shift in the level and sustainability of our economic growth.
All right,
to address the needs of us. So to do that, we're looking at areas of the economy with that huge multiplier effect. So where are those areas? Infrastructure. With the announcement of the President's Renewable Hope Infrastructure Fund, which is underpinned by massive economic corridor, backbone logistical investments, seeks to reduce the cost of production, which then it's for manufacturers or industrialists in the country is a positive impact in terms of lowering their cost of production, because cost of transport is one of the huge inputs to one of the huge cost elements that businesses bear. And then also trying to stimulate demand, the government has set up the Credit Consumer Corp, which looks to provide consumer financing to Nigerians so that demand can be stimulated and the products that are being made by these companies can be affordable to Nigerians. And in the energy sector, which is another huge cost input for manufacturers and industrialists, there's been a number of reforms aimed at increasing the supply of energy and reducing the cost of energy. So the reforms and interventions in the infrastructure space through the intermodal and enabling commerce infrastructure that the Renewed Hope Infrastructure Fund is focusing on, as well as the energy reforms that are being made, tackles two key issues that are one of the biggest hurdles to growth for industrialists, and while opening up opportunities for more investment into these key transformative areas of the economy.
Right, and talking about industrialization, we did hear Mr. Dangote say that industrialization cannot happen without stable power supply at this time. He did talk about improved power supply, but we're seeing Band A customers, they're still going to have to pay more. We saw a new tariff hike recently. So what we're seeing is getting more expensive, to get energy in the country at this time, and definitely that's going to impact on the revenue of most of these companies. So what's the plan here to push for affordability? Because prices are going up in almost everything, in the country. What's the plan to bring some kind of affordability for Nigerians?
Well, part of the challenge in the energy sector is that demand far exceeds the level of supply. And for the longest time, one of the biggest challenges that have held the energy sector back has been the non-cost reflective tariffs. And that had distorted the workings of the market because distribution companies will tell you they are not earning enough revenue to be able to invest in their network and increasing the uptime of their networks, which then results in lower volume of electricity that is delivered to consumers. In order to address that issue, one part is putting in a market reflective tariff and looking at bands of customers who are in a position to be able to afford this higher level of tariff. Remember, Band A customers represent those customers that has been determined to be able to absorb this higher increase, and other vulnerable communities are unaffected. So one part of addressing that problem was obviously addressing the tariff issue to make it more cost reflective, so that investors may be more willing to come into the market. And as more investors come into the market, you'll find investments going into increased generation, going into expanding the network and making it more robust, which means that the current situation that we have, where 13,000 megawatts of power, we have capacity of 13,000 megawatts of power, but we're only receiving 4,000 to the end customer, will be resolved because there are more investments to expand that network, make it more robust, so that the distribution losses, the high level of technical and commercial losses that is being experienced in the industry and have turned off investors for years, will be resolved through increased investment. And on the other hand, there's also reform in being able to make sure that all consumers in Nigeria are metered through the Presidential Metering Initiative. Metering is a very key component of the electricity market because you can't measure or control what you can't control what or improve what you don't measure. So being able to have every consumer metered will reduce the high levels of commercial losses or collection losses that distribution companies are experiencing, that it's making it hard for them to make the required investments to have a robust system that can deliver electricity to all consumers. So the combination of price, tariff review, metering, and specific interventions in looking at increasing the capacity of the transmission backbone collectively would see us experiencing higher levels of power supply. And with that high level of power supply, it will actually reduce the cost of electricity, because the unit cost of electricity will reduce because you are essentially using the same infrastructure to transport higher volumes of power to consumers.
All right, well, this administration is over a year now, and we've heard countless manufacturers complain about, the cost of production, in manufacturing. In your view, when do you see a time in this administration where we can see manufacturers actually see that cost of production is actually going down? When do you see this actually happening realistically in Nigeria?
So, we have to understand that the challenges that we are facing compounded over time. And I think we need to get away from the mindset of low-hanging fruit, immediate gains, and start thinking more of the medium to long-term approach, so that we can begin to do the enduring and prepare ourselves for the road to productivity and manage the strategic evolution that we need to get our economy where it needs to get to. This is not saying that the government is not mindful of the immediate issues that every citizen is facing, because as an economist said, in the long run, we are all dead. So these issues are very near and present, are very pressing. And that's why the administration, the palliative measures of the administration in being able to address the very present issues that particularly vulnerable communities are facing in terms of providing cash transfers to our most vulnerable citizens, and also by on the supply side and the industrialists, by providing concessional financing to below 10% to industrialists, so that cost of capital will be lower for people who need to make investments or people who are driving businesses. So the government is mindful of the present challenges that people are facing, but at the same time, government has to put in interventions that are sustainable and enduring, and they don't happen overnight.
So do you see this happening in the Tinubu administration? Do you see this happening?
Yes.
Cost of production going down
Definitely.
In President Tinubu's administration. Do you see that happening?
Definitely, because we have to have, while we'll have a 8-year or 10-year horizon, it's not like we have to wait till the last year for the total benefits to manifest. The benefits manifest incrementally. And what often happens is that when you get to a critical point, the impact then becomes exponential. What you just need to do is unlock some of the issues, some of the challenges that are putting down all this pent-up growth can be unlocked. And the investments that are being made in looking at some of the strategic and transformative areas of the economy, such as infrastructure, technology, energy, what it does is that by opening up these areas, it provides an enabling environment, an enabling infrastructure that private capital and businesses can ride on to even make more investments and unleash more growth. And when you build a road, today, it opens up, while creating linkages between commercial centers, it also provides an evacuation route for businesses to utilize for the free flow of commerce. And that happens could happen within a 1-year cycle, it could happen even longer than a 1-year cycle. So within the first term of this administration, a lot of these investments will start manifesting. Now, it's not only we have to wait till these projects are completed. What it does, and I mentioned this earlier, is the signal, the confidence it gives to investors. Because investors are looking to the future, right? They're profit maximization entities. So when they see there's a signal that the environment is going to be more conducive, they start making their investment today to take advantage of that better opportunity that's going to exist in the future. So that's part of the benefits that comes with a clear plan, is by signaling to the investors what government is going to do, and not only signaling that, but following it with actual action steps.
Right.
And we've seen that with the major infrastructure projects that are currently ongoing.
All right, we hope the multinationals that have left, they actually come back at some point. The ones here stay, and the local producers actually grow. Thank you so much. Great having your perspective, Mr. John Uwajumogu, Special Advisor to the President on Trade, Industry, and Investment. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, Commodities Market Update is next. Do stay with us.